what is the key factor in regards to learning a language that I haven't heard anyone talk about, and it's very important. So first of all, my native tongue is not English. I teach Hebrew, but I want everyone to understand this video, so I'm doing my best in English. I love learning about languages. I had a unique process, or so I thought, but when I research it, I see that a lot of people actually learn like me. So there are so many different approaches, and it's great because we have different people that work differently, and we need to, take the right method to the right person. I don't believe in one method for everyone. I do lean more towards natural learning, but I've seen some students that really need grammar and it helps them. So I don't believe in one way. But I do know that there are some, and not a lot, key factors that are always relevant. For instance, having fun, right? If we're not having fun, if it's a chore, if it's something that we need to do and we hate, and let's face it, we have a lot to do in our day-to-day life, then it will be very hard to learn. So obviously, no matter how you learn, if it's grammar, if it's just input, if it's natural learning, if it's through books, if it's through with a teacher, with a digital course, doesn't matter. It has to be fun. I do believe in creativity, in something that we are participants, not just passive learners, which is great input, but we also speak or write. In any ways, there are some factors like having fun. I want to talk about one more factor. And again, I've seen everything online, but I've never seen anyone talk about what I'm going to talk to you about today. So I want to connect learning a language to acting. So if you don't know me, my name is Noah. I live in Israel. I am an actress, a musician, and I teach Hebrew. I don't just teach, I'm a teacher, but I also kind of coach and guide people how to deal with the blockages, the fears, the insecurities. I do believe that learning something new always brings these insecurities from different past experience, and we really need to combine working on the material, on the techniques, but also on our mindset. And that is what I do with my students. And I bring a lot of my methods from the performance art, from music and from acting. So let's talk about one of the main things that we need to learn, vocabulary, right? If we're listening, if we're reading, if we're talking, no matter what we're doing, we have to gain more and more vocabulary as we go along if we want to enrich our language and to speak freely and fluently and to understand people. So many people that I meet still memorize words. I mean, I haven't met anyone that actually succeeded in learning a language that way. Maybe there are some people that do it, but most people, let's say 95%, okay, I'll leave 5%, I don't want to say that I know everything, but I mean, most people, if they memorize, first of all, it's really boring, it's really hard. You'll remember some of it maybe for the short term, but really not for the long term, and there's no context, it's not interesting. You will never know how to use it when you really need it, right? When you need it in a conversation, you just know random words, and it really doesn't kind of stick with you in the long-term memory. So if memorizing doesn't work, what does? So I want to talk about actors. Actors, they have to learn a lot of text. So context, that's great. Already we have context. Dialogues, monologues, we have a story, which is already very important. So how do they do that? I know that many of my friends, when they saw me act, they said, how could you remember so many lines? So first I gotta say it's a muscle. When you start working on text, dialogues, monologues, remembering them, it gets much, much, much easier. It's like a muscle, right? It's like pathways in our brain. It just gets easier and easier. I can tell you that with my students, I work a lot with dialogues and monologues. And once they work with it, they don't just remember the words from that dialogue. That's obviously so. That's of course, they remember, but they start picking up on words from conversations, television, whatever, and remembering them much, much faster and easier. Just something that we train our brain to do. So in any ways, it's just a great thing to do. But how do actors do it? So do they memorize? Well, I'm going to talk about good actors, and good actors do not memorize, because if you just memorize text and then start acting, you will probably recite it more than really act it. Acting is doing actions, is being in the moment for real. And if we're just memorizing and reciting text, we see bad actors do it, and we immediately identify that something is not authentic there, it's not real, and we can't really relate or feel anything towards it. So a good actor has a process. First, they get the dialogue, they get the whole play, the whole script, and then they start kind of dissecting it into scenes. And there's a process to the whole script, but let's talk about just one dialogue, because we're not going to do a whole script, most of us. So let's say we have just a dialogue, maybe something that we wrote, maybe something that was scripted, maybe something from television, it doesn't matter. So a good actor takes it and understands the motivation. What do I want in the scene? And why do I want it? What is the thing that I need from the person that I am talking with? And after understanding that, we think kind of, who do I need it in my life? And what are the obstacles? So an actor does a lot of framework and a lot of, dissecting each and every sentence. What is my obstacle? What can I do to overcome this obstacle? What is the next action and the next action? Why do I say what I say, and why do I say the next sentence as well? What do I get from my partner? There's a lot of things. What is the inner dialogue, the inner object? So by the end of working on this and really dissecting every word, not only do actors know everything by heart, so much so that they can say it out in their sleep, right? They are connected to each and every word. When they act, they don't need to pretend. It's theirs. It's like, right now I thought of this sentence and I feel everything, like it's really happening to me. So there's this emotional weight that we get. And then we see a great actor and we say, oh my God, I want them to succeed, to win, to fall in love. And we relate. So how does that get to do with learning a language? Are we supposed to take every dialogue and dissect it into pieces? Of course not. It will take forever. But there are some things that we can do. And then not only that we'll remember those words, not only that we'll develop our memory, the pathways, the neurons that fire when we learn words, but we'll also create a connection, an emotional connection to the language. Why is that important? Because when we speak a different language, for me, let's say English, in the beginning, when I don't know, I have mistakes, obviously, but when we start, it kind of feels like wearing a costume. So let's say, English and Hebrew. So Hebrew is more in the throat. Ivrit yoter gronit. So you can see that immediately something is like, it's a lower pitch. It's more from the throat, less round. And English is more twangy and round. Already it changes my voice, my location, where I send my voice to. How do I form vowels and words, even if my accent is Israeli, but it's still not Hebrew. So there's a lot of difference. And also, it doesn't resonate, right? Today it resonates for me in English, but when I started saying I love you, it was like any other thing that I could say. I could go around spreading I love you to everyone, because it didn't mean anything. But in Hebrew, אני אוהבת אותך, wow, it has so much history. My first love, my family, my fears, my everything, my love today. So it resonates. It has an emotional weight to it. And we want to get that and achieve it in a foreign language as well. I always say nothing will be like our mother tongue, with emphasis on mother. We heard it when we were in the womb. So there's nothing that can replace it. But we can get a very, very, very close second and speak fluently and communicate and engage with the language and talk to people and work with that language and do whatever we want. So that's perfect for me. If you ask me, I think that's what we need. And so, but we do want to express ourselves. And that is when and where we need to feel that it's a part of us. When I speak, feel like I'm wearing a costume, it's not me, it sounds weird, I feel weird, it's embarrassing, it's awkward, it's strange, then most likely I won't even talk. And even if I will, it will be very hard to express myself, to be funny maybe in this language, to be interesting, to be charismatic, to convey my ideas. When it's strange, it's very hard to do. But when we are connected to the language, it's much, much, much easier. So what can we do if not everything that actors do? So the first thing, that when you take a dialogue, and again, a dialogue is just one tool that we can work with, but it's a great one. I can tell you that there was a theater in Israel, people who came from Russia many, many years ago, and they didn't understand any word in Hebrew. And the director wasn't a Hebrew speaker, and they really wanted to make shows in Hebrew because most people in Israel speak Hebrew. And they just did dialogues, plays, right? Plays, not just dialogue, a whole plays in Hebrew without them even being able to speak. And very, very, very quickly, they learned how to speak Hebrew just by doing those plays. The director never had to learn the plays, the text. He doesn't act, so he just gives the right. He says what to do. He's a director. So he never actually learned the text, and he never learned Hebrew. He lived for many years in Israel, and he knew how to speak Russian and English. So it does work. Again, it's not the only way, but it's one of the tools that I love to do with my students, and you can do it by yourself as well. So if you're working with a teacher, if you're working with a partner, it's great. If you're working with a digital course that does it, it's great. But if not, you can do it by yourself. So that's my dog. So just take a dialogue. Maybe you can script it just with words that you've learned. Maybe you don't have a lot of Hebrew, and you can just write simple sentences. Maybe you're already more advanced, maybe an intermediate level. So you can take dialogues, and it doesn't have to be in Hebrew. It can be in any language that you're learning. And so you can look online, dialogues in Hebrew. There are some websites that you can find the dialogues from different movies, even, American movies or whatever, and they're translated into Hebrew. And you can just read them out loud. So reading is input, speaking it is output. Already you have this full circle. And then put some emotional weight. Instead of trying to memorize, right? If you have new words, kind of find out what they mean, maybe check on Google Translate. And then instead of memorizing, just read it. So think, what do I want from that partner, from the other person? And maybe just read your lines and without the other ones. And think, what is my obstacle? What is hard for me? What is the thing that prevents me from getting there? And then think, why do I need to say the next sentence? And the sentence after that? And the sentence after that? If you'll know the why, you'll remember the sentences. You can do that. You can also just read the dialogue in funny ways, in different accents, different genres, very quietly, very loud, very fast, slow motion, whatever. right? And then again, you connect it to something emotional. Maybe you can do it very dramatic, like a soap opera or telenovela. Maybe you can do it like a sitcom. So again, if you have a friend to do it with, it's great. When I do it with my students, it's very funny and they love it. But you can also do it by yourself. And once you do it, you remember that text. You help your brain to develop those muscles, right, of learning and remembering words, and you've created an emotional connection. And I think that's what all we need to learn a language. Whew. Okay, I did it. A whole video in English. So I'm going to do different videos, some in English if I just want to explain a technique, one of the techniques that I work with, but some will be in Hebrew, reading stories, teaching Hebrew. There are already some fun Hebrew videos, Hebrew on Wheels, where I teach different things. Just go and check that out. And if you like this video, click the like button and sign up for this channel, and I'll see you on the next video.